What's up, guys? I'm going to be reviewing a tournament from a couple weeks ago. It's a $3 tournament, very small stakes, much lower than my usual buy-in of about 30, 20s, and 10s. But I made a nice deep run in it, and I won't spoil it for you, but just have to watch and see. Unlike most videos that most people do, I'm going to be reviewing pretty much every hand, even the ones we're not involved in, because those are very relevant. This is poker. This is how poker is played. This is how you beat people. You watch them play when you're not in hands. So to not watch them play, it doesn't really make sense to me. I know they're just trying to get through hands. I mean, it makes sense. It's just another way to look at hands and stuff. But I think this is gonna be, I think it's more beneficial overall. It's a long tournament, so it's gonna be many series to the many videos to the series. So put on a pot of coffee, like I just did, and let's get it started. And I'll talk about the stats I have here when applicable. So even little details right off the bat, we have an interesting hand. We're not involved in it, but it doesn't matter. If we were in game, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather here. If we were in game, we'd be watching this hand. And we'd be using this information to make decisions later on when we are in hands. So why wouldn't we look at it in a review? So right off the bat, it's anytime there's an unorthodox bet sizing or lines, you should definitely be taking notes. And so right off the bat, we have a 5-6x open from the small blind, which actually is not that unstandard because we're so deep and he's out of position. Well, actually, this guy's only got 77 big blinds. So yeah, it's pretty damn big open. And he actually gets, he opens for 6x and actually gets raised, which is not really, going to be expected when someone 6x opens. Let's see how he reacts. A call, a check, a half pot bet, and a call. So this guy's flop sizing to me is a little awkward because he didn't set up a turn shove. Now, if he wants to barrel the turn, it's going to be awkward. What size does he bet? If he bets, a third pot, it's pretty fucking committing. If he bets a quarter pot, well, then he's giving good odds to draws. If he goes all in, it's a bit of an overbet. But me personally, if I'm betting this turn, it's going to be an all-in. I'm not going to go to a third pot and give good odds to a flush draw or straight draw. So that's why I would have leaned towards either a bigger bet sizing on the flop, and then I could have comfortably shoved the turn, or I would have leaned towards a larger bet sizing. A smaller bet sizing, so I can go a more comfortable, maybe like a half pot bet on the turn, and then a pot size bet on the river. I would have set up the streets so they go like that. I guess it kind of depends what your hand is too, though. But you can just play ranges. But right off the bat, we see kind of a bit of mistakes, little small mistakes. What I consider to be mistakes, anyway. And now he check calls again. It's is he planning to fold the river when if this guy shoves the river for 1,200 into 4,000? It's so awkward. And he leads. And he folds. Okay, then. That's weird. Maybe this guy had like pocket queens that he 3-bet pre and then c-bet, and then why would he barrel the turn though? My guess is that he lost some of his stack early and is frustrated and just was ready to spew, so he re-raised his flop. All right, he re-raised pre-flop his 6x open with whatever, and then was just barreling him to raise 6x and then call a 3-bet. Maybe he's got like jacks. Maybe he flopped a set of jacks or king queen or ace queen of spades or something. I don't know. Anyways, next hand. Oops. Just want to check something real quick. Okay, good. So again, right off the bat, so the big point of this video is not only to learn how we would play hands, but you know, the mistakes while we're playing. We're trying to pick up, like we're trying to take note of mistakes players are making and what kind of mistakes they're making, and even in like where their leaks lie, like what kind of leaks they have in their game. And you know, when someone min raises under the gun, right off the bat, I'm going to categorize that guy as a weak player without even seeing his hand, because it just doesn't make sense for him to min raise under the gun. He shouldn't be min raising under the gun this deep. So yeah, so we're going to consider this. Oh, another thing is when people do this, especially if they have like loose stats like this, and by the way, this is VPIP 40, so he's got a 40 VPIP over 57 hands, which is a significant sample. You know, usually these min raises from early position from loose players are like 6-7 suited, 7-8 suited, pocket deuces, pocket threes, pocket fours, those kind of hands looking to see a cheap flop, good implied odd hands looking to see a cheap flop, but still take the initiative. So when I see this, like if I have any Broadway here, I'm re-raising this. And they're usually going to fold pre. Or they're going to call and check fold a lot of flops unless they get a monster flop. And you can just c-bet, and you can just 3-bet and print money that way if they fold, or you can c-bet a lot of flops and print money that way. And if they play back, you know they probably hit their set or picked up a big draw. And they play their hands pretty face up. So these are the kind of mistakes that in fact, this is like my bread and butter right here. When I see people do this, I punish the shit out of this and I print money. And it works out really well for us. So this is one of the very, very common mistakes that you're going to see. But it works out from here, and he steals the blinds. Sorry, I have to go backwards for some reason. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, you know why? Because I loaded the hands from the last hand. I should have loaded the hands from the first hand. Sorry, falling behind here on the action. So again, we see another mistake. And okay, so again, we're trying to explain common mistakes, right? And this is a $3 tournament, so you're gonna see them all over the fucking place. But you're still gonna see these same mistakes at you know, higher buy-ins, but you're just going to see them at a greater frequency and a low buy-in. So that's a good reason to review a small tournament like this, so you can see a bunch of these mistakes and talk about these mistakes and learn from these mistakes and not make them yourselves. A limp, obviously a mistake. You know, there's no reason to limp this deep because you can call 3-bets. And then, you know, maybe if you had 20 big blinds, you can justify like, you know, you don't want to get reshoved. Say, you know, you have 10 jack suited here. It really sucks to open and have to fold, or open and have to call a reshove. So you can limp your entire range. You know, it's a thing that good players are doing these days, and it's fine. But this deep, you just open, and this is a mistake. So I'd be categorizing him as a fish if I saw him limp at the table, and sure enough, he's already got the fish tag. So I must have saw that in game and tagged him. Guy limps behind him. Limping behind is fine. Open limping is not fine. What kind? I mean, God, I can just. I mean, this video could be, you know, 100-hour video. If we, you know, this video can be 1,000-hour video if we wanted to talk about every last little detail of every spot, like explain our range in every situation. Like, for example, if I'm him, what's my limping range to limp behind a cutoff open? Well, I'm limping any hand that plays well multi-way. So like small pocket pairs, suited connectors, ace X suited, king X suited, queen X suited. Maybe as weak as jack 7 suited. I'm limping behind. You know, small blind. What am I limping? I'm gonna limp a lot of hands for 25 chips. What am I ISOing? I'm gonna be ISOing a very strong range from the small blind. I'm not, because you know you're gonna be out of position and likely to get called by a lot of these fishy players. Are gonna call and like try to see a flop. So I'm gonna isolate real tight and I'm gonna isolate real big and expect to get called. If I'm him, what size would I go to? I think I go to like 355. So I mean 304 is fine, but you know, if they've got a pocket pair and you've got aces, you're giving them odds to set mine in position, and likely it's going to go multi-way, so they're going to get even better odds. So such a fishy table, it's likely going to go call, call, call. And now this guy who limped pocket deuces is getting great odds to call, and you know, really have really good implied odds against your aces or whatever. And again, your range is going to be kind of face up. If they're any kind of thinking player, they're going to know that you're isolating tight, and then they're going to really rape you if you have like the aces or something. And let's see if it does go call, call, call. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't remember. This has been like, I mean, it's been about 2 weeks since I played this tournament. I'm not going to spoil for you what happens, but let's just say we make a deep run. Call, call. So this guy didn't call, but did go call, call as expected. Okay, he takes it down. Oh, sorry. So again, under the gun limps, we already have him tagged as a fish, so we must have saw that at the table and gave him the tag right off the bat. A mistake, guys. Don't limp, raise or fold deep. There's really no reason to limp. When you limp, you give the opportunity to for people to isolate you. By isolate, I mean just raise and represent a strong hand when you've represented a weak hand, and they can just c-bet flops, and you only hit flops 1/3 of the time. So you know you're giving them odds to just print money against you and just c-bet, you know, flops. Now it's just not good. I'm not gonna get into every last detail of why, but yeah, don't do it, guys. Don't open limp. Limping behind is fine. If I'm this guy, I'm limping behind. Same range we talked about earlier. Small pockets, deuces through sevens, maybe eights. I'm limping here too. Easy limp behind. Ace X suited, king 9 suited, 9-10 suited, 10-8 suited. I'm limping behind those hands in this situation. Again, we can talk about the small blind's limping range. I'm going to limp a lot of cards here because it's only going to cost me 25 to win. 50, 100, 150, plus antes 250, 254 in the pot. 25 to win 254. So I'm going to be limping almost any 2 cards there. Yeah, almost any 2 cards. And I'm just going to play real straightforwardly post flop with them as well. 10 queen looks pretty. You know, it depends what I wanna, how I wanna make this video, what kind of audience I wanna talk to. So far, I've been talking about hands and situations as if you are, you know, kind of a beginner, and we'll kind of stick with that. Like, you know, maybe we'll target an audience that's either like brand new to the game or been playing for like 2 or 3 years, maybe that kind of thing. So, um, I mean, if that's the case, maybe I could just make you know, a if that's the case, you don't, I'd maybe this type of video isn't the place to start. You want to start with someone talking about what hands to open with from what position. If you know, that's a video to watch instead. So why don't we just target an intermediate audience instead? Maybe people slightly below my level of experience. So 10 queen, you should know, an intermediate player should know that that's a fold from that position under the gun. So look, okay, so again, we have the fishy player limps, a mistake, another mistake, the fishy player limps, and another mistake. Okay, so this is interesting. This guy isolates the 3x. This is a small ISO. A standard ISO is 4x or 3.75x. A small ISO is 3x and a big ISO is 5x. And you can vary depending on stack sizes. So on this stack size, 18 big blinds in position, a 3x ISO is actually, it's fine. It's pretty standard. However, I think it's bad, and I think it's a mistake. And the reason why I think it's a mistake is because it's gonna go like call so much in a small stakes tournament like this. And some people might think, oh well, that's good. You have a strong hand. You want to get called by a bunch of people. Like, yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. But you know, it's gonna force you to play so straightforwardly. It's gonna take the skill out in a way. It's gonna take the skill out in a way where you're just hoping to hit an ace or a king now. I think, and it's also a little bit higher variance. I think a better play is, I mean, you have 18 big blinds, and let's see how much is in the pot. 50, 100, 154, 175, 179. It's 179 chips in the pot. If you shove, if you just shove, you increase your stack by 20%, which is always nice. And then you might think, oh, well, then you're wasting the equity of your hand. You know, you have such a strong hand, you want action. Well, here's the thing. This is a $3 tournament. You're going to get called a lot more than you would in another tournament. Like, somebody will just call it off with like King 10 and King 9 and 6-7 suited and just ridiculous shit. So you'll be able to get it heads up, you know, with hands that you dominate and hands that you crush, and you'll still be making money, but you'll be doing it at a lower variance. I mean, you could say it's a preference thing, like, oh, well, I prefer, you know, this, and that's a fine argument. Like, if you prefer this, that's fine. Personally, I prefer the shove, and I suggest that if you're not like a wizard, like if you haven't worked with like all the programs like Poker Stove and like our Flopzilla and stuff like that, and know what flops to like stack off with without a pair and shit like that. Like, if you don't make a pair with ace king, but you know what flops to stack off with because you've done so much work on Flopzilla, you know, I think this is a fine if you're really good. If you're really good, this is fine. If you're not some wizard, just shove here, guys. Just shove. The equity is about the same. Like, you're making about the same amount of money as you are with this. But if you're not a wizard, you're gonna be making mistakes post flop with ace king here, and therefore it's actually gonna be more profitable to just shove, and also lower variance. It's kind of hard. I hope I kind of explained that well. Yeah, I just think a shove is better here, unless you're just some super wizard. Now, if this was a higher stakes tournament and a fish limped, and then you isolate like here, it's not gonna go call, because people are gonna assume that you're pretty strong when you're isolating with the 18 big blind stack to less than 4x. Um, the people behind you are gonna call you less often, and you're gonna be able to get it heads up. And even if you miss, now you're gonna have a skill game because it's gonna be heads up. Again, by doing this, you're taking the skill out of the game a lot, I think. And in this specific tournament, you're taking the skill out of the game because it's going to go call, and you're going to have to play straightforwardly. $3 tournament, guys. Everybody and their mom's going to flat you here. And then you're just going to have to play straightforwardly post flop. Call. Call. See, okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now what? Now you really have to hit the flop. Uh, okay then. So even here, you got the one of the best flops you can hope for, and you're fucking beat. You're fucking beat. Wow, what a sick spot. And look, he's got exactly a pot size bet left. See what happens. Yeah. Yep. Ugh. Does he get there? Nope. Oh man, he could have just picked up 20% or got it heads up versus the limper, and maybe won a flip, or had him dominated against like an ace 10 or something. Well, he doesn't have ace 10 because he didn't call, but yeah, yep, call. Like I said, okay. Well, I still got it. Call. I meant not call. I meant call. Okay, next hand. Min raise, mistake. You should not min raise this deep out of position, especially in a low stakes tournament. Actually, there's more argument for doing it in a low stakes tournament because people aren't going to punish you. Now, if I'm at your table, you shouldn't do this because I know that this is a fucking stupid hand, like 4 or 5 suited, and I'll fucking punish it. But a lot of people won't, and you can get to see flops with hands that you normally can't play. You can play a few more pots from earlier position. We call in the big blind, getting good odds, and we flop a flush draw. The more people are in the hand, the more straightforwardly you should play. So with this many people in the pot, it's likely someone has an ace, especially in a raised pot. People like aces. People raise aces. People call bets, pre-flop raises with aces. And there's even more aces more weak aces in people's range in a low stakes tournament. So, I mean, what does betting accomplish? They're not going to fold an ace, There's all the king jacks and jack queens of the world, 10 jacks. None of those things are folding to a bet. So there's really no reason to bet here. Just hopefully that they make a mistake and bet too small. And yeah, this is too small. This is too small, guys. In position, it doesn't matter. This is too small. If you're going to bet, this is a drawy board. You're going to get called, and you're giving good odds. If he has ace 10 here, it's a bad bet. If he has pocket deuces, it's too small. You're giving clubs good odds to draw, and you're never going to fold pocket deuces, right? If you have a set of deuces, you're never going to fold. So you're giving good odds to just punish your small bet and rape you on later streets. And sure enough, I've got the club draw. So if he does have something like 3 deuces, and I hit my club, he should have bet bigger. And when he bets bigger also, and I call and the club comes in, it's like, okay, now he's a little more scared because my range is a lot narrower. So if he bets small, I don't have to have clubs here when the clubs come, and I could have a lot more bullshit. It's kind of an action turn. But I guess what I'm saying, if he bets big, he protects his hands, gets more value versus draws, and he defines my hand range more. And if he's bluffing this flop, like he checks back the turn, so was he bluffing? You know, he didn't bet the turn. Well, it's kind of a bad turn for him if he's got like an ace X hand. You know, like ace 9, ace 8, ace 7, ace 6, something like that. If he's got a weak ace, like that's a bad turn, so it makes sense for him to check back. But I'm inclined to think he's just bluffing. Like when we checked to, he just bet when he was checked to him. But actually, his stats aren't that aggressive, so maybe he just had it. Maybe he's got like an ace 3 or something that he's just pot controlling. Bottom line is he should have bet bigger on the flop. Multi-way. Heads up pot, it's a fine bet. It's a fine bet heads up pot. But multi-way is too small. I mean, you're never bluffing. Like, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be bluffing in this spot, even when check to on the button. You really shouldn't be bluffing very often at all. So therefore, you're just gonna you're not gonna have many bluffs. So just bet big and you know, let them. I mean, it's fine. They're gonna know you have an ace, and they're not gonna try to bluff you off it. Really, you know. And you're just gonna have a range advantage, and you can bet safe turns and. You know, check back. You're in position. You can check back bad rivers. You can check back bad turns in position and stuff like that. Yeah, I really like a bigger bet here on this flop. Can't stress that enough. So check, check, turn. Looks like he was bluffing the turn or the flop like when he shouldn't have been. And this guy leads on the river for full pot. So it's looking like he's got like ace 7, something like that, but we're never gonna know. He folds. So he was probably bluffing when he shouldn't have been. Yeah, we just missed everything. So yeah, I wanted to see one more thing real quick. Called the flop. We got to see a river and we just missed, so yeah. I didn't even really talk about our hand or our situation. Ours is pretty cut and dry. I mean, not much to talk about. Like I just said, you just got to play straightforwardly in multi-way pots, and we're just trying to hit a club basically. So you know, it didn't come, so you know, if we hit a club, maybe we just lead the river or something, and try to guess what sizing we can get. Like bet as big as we possibly can, but still get called, is basically all we're thinking about there. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna call that part 1, and I'll see you for part 2.